son was he was kind of sick a little bit, but yeah, he's doing pretty good now, and yeah, just been busy with different consulting gigs and speaking engagements. So yeah, it's been not too bad.
So when we always like to tackle on, and I know the last time so let's let people know who Ryan Dr. Warner is, and then we'll go from there because we're already jumped into the live broadcast of the show. It's already going on live on YouTube and live on iHeart and Apple Podcasts and all those podcast channels. But so let people know again who you are and what you're doing.
Yeah, so I am Dr. Ryan C. Warner. I'm a licensed psychologist, researcher, speaker, and consultant. I'm passionate about assisting teams with creating a culture of inclusion to maximize their potential. I'm the founder and CEO of RC Warner Consulting, in which we provide leadership, diversity, and wellness enhancements for small and large organizations across the globe. So I'm really passionate about unconscious bias, microaggressions, anti-racism, enhancing wellness within the Black community. And yeah, I mean, that's me. That's what I do. I was born in Chicago, Illinois. I'm currently located in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And yeah, I mean, for fun, I love listening to music, working out, watching sports. So that's me.
When we talking, I was just traveling and I was down in the Mississippi area. And when we talk about traveling through the South and traveling in different areas, there are some things that just most people don't recognize. They're just culturally taught in to not include. And that's something that people don't naturally recognize for themselves of how they are actually excluding people with either their mannerisms or their words. I know I hyper-focusly on the words, where a lot of people are not being included by the way you speak to them. You want to talk on that?
Yeah, so we all have unconscious bias, right? We all have blind spots. And sometimes we just operate in our own lens, based on our previous experiences, based on the childhood upbringing, the media we consume, etc. And oftentimes we don't intentionally mean to exclude someone, right? Or to maybe commit a microaggression or etc. But yeah, sometimes based on not only what we say, but also based on what we do, can exclude certain individuals. Just for instance, I was just having this conversation not too long ago with a colleague, and I was given a story about how during my school, every single time that that there was parties or there were activities to celebrate something, the first food that everybody thought of was pizza. They said, "Hey, let's have a pizza party," right?
Right.
And everybody brought, ordered pizza. Then I sat there, and they were like, "Why are you not eating pizza?" And I was like, "Well, I don't eat cheese. I'm lactose intolerant." And people are like, "Oh, well, I didn't realize that." And so certain behaviors that we engage in. Now I'm sitting, with my little sandwich in the corner, right? And I'm not really engaged with everyone else, and just something like that. That example, sometimes we don't think about, the differences that others may have. So we may in turn exclude them from certain things, which could be impactful.
I actually think, with the practices, I always say those living practices, and I'll also clear that up for people. Living practices means to be compassionate, consciously compassionate about someone else other than you. And does that mean taking all living things into consideration? Absolutely. They go, "Well, Dr. P, how do you do that? And do you do that all the time?" Well, yeah, I actually make a conscious effort. Again, conscious compassion. I am thinking of how this could affect someone else. Would I know all things about all people? No. But I am slow in thought and slow in speech and slow in action. So my ultimate goal, compassionately, is not to offend or to exclude. So I think we can move slowly and talk slower. This way, with the speech we are using, it can be offensive to other people if you know that if the speech in itself is offensive. Because I think we could do a better job on speech. And I think we use so many words that are just so harmful that we never consider to be harmful in our own demeanor or our own personal surroundings. But they are harmful.
Definitely. I mean, I was actually just doing a talk last month, or actually a couple of weeks ago, about this with a large national organization about disability etiquette. And oftentimes we use terms like that person is disabled, or
right.
that person is mentally retarded, these type of terms, and that's very harmful. And that's toxic language, right, that we're communicating. But we may not realize that.
Or in the South, the boys. Hey, you boy, come here. Can I talk to you? Those are not terms of endearment in context. If I'm your son, then yes, but I'm not your son. So to me, calling you my boy, or if we're in close friendship, though, that's my boy. Can you use a term of endearment of boy? Yeah, you could. It's not used like that just randomly, though. And I think people hurt people so often that they don't consider that they're hurting people. And it's like, even when you talk to, there was an issue with a young girl. We happen to know, I know her, a lot about her now, because this group of people offended her dramatically with words they were using. You gal, and how come you didn't know? And it was not a pleasant encounter for the mass group of people, and she was trying to get clarification of how many people were wanting to be set down, and they didn't curse at her or anything like that, but it was very mean-spirited. And they didn't realize that they were pushing on her, this other person, with these words about how she was operating. So when she walked away, as we were sitting down, we noticed that, so my wife hugged her, and she just broke down and started crying. And there were other things involved of why she was tearing, but we asked her, we pulled her aside, we ended up getting the manager, she was going to the manager's office. So we wanted to protect her, we put this protective bubble around her, and we have done that often when it comes to people we see are being harmed by other people, whether intentional or unintentional, it's still a harmful effect. And I sat there in a lot of deep feelings for this young person, knowing that whether it be servers, people in this climate and atmosphere that's trying to work really hard, and people are very agitated because there's not enough time to be sat down at a table, and I'm waiting so long for a restaurant or whatever. It just seemed like COVID's over, let's get back to normal, and let's sit me down like I used to be sat faster. Well, that's not the case anymore. So, and then people are very adamantly expressing that to certain people that's out of their control.
Yeah. So what? I'm curious, what ended up happening, in that incident?
Well, the girl did calm down. We did talk to her. We talked to her for a while, and the people end up getting sat. But there was no apology for the young girl. I mean, we didn't tell her to just toughen up. The words we will talk to her about was, we understand. We know that people have spiritual ways of how they communicate. And I said, I'm glad you are taking this emotionally and expressing it, because I wouldn't want you to hold this in. And so she cried more, and then she started talking about, I can't believe I'm 16 and I have to work 2 jobs, and she started to go on about her life. That's why I ended up knowing more about this young lady because she expressed herself. There was things that she was holding on to, and this encounter exploded that. And we all have those. we have these moments in our lives, whether it be today, tomorrow, yesteryear, whatever, that at a right time and a wrong moment, things hit you in a different way, and it just comes on out. And I think this was one of those things for this young lady, or who knows what's going on. We did find out what's going on in her family life and things like that. It's just not a healthy situation for her, but she's doing the best she can, and these words were telling her what she isn't, so.
And so what stood out to me in that story is, despite this experience, she was able to obtain empathy and support, from you. And I bet she really appreciated that, right? So that's something that we can all take away and learn, that we may not be able, we may not experience the same thing someone else experiences, but we can try to display that empathy, try to sit in their shoes, try to support that individual. And I'm sure that helped her, maybe get through that difficult moment.
And, for us, we give out our numbers. We give out all that information if you ever need to talk to us again or more. But then it got me to thinking of the servers, the people who are trying, and the people who are very short with them. How many restaurants and avenues like this that there are people working that aren't being cared for emotionally? Because they are understaffed. There's a lot of people just flat out understaffed. And people are just not happy with their being understaffed. Which is, literally, they take it personally. Online, I hear a lot of, going back to the words, while standing online, there are these words that are being used like hand grenades. I just can't believe this place. Why would they have these, who's working here, and how are these people trained, and why is it just so slow? Why so venomous about the time wait?
Yeah, and oftentimes, as I mentioned before, we only see our own perspectives. We don't understand that they have a difficult job, and they may be undermanned. They may have a lot of other responsibilities and tasks. And sometimes we don't think about that. We only see, our experience, right? So that just goes to reinforce, hey, we have to be empathetic. We have to try to be understanding. We have to just try to be good people,
That's so true. And then, it seems to be when people are trying to be good people and do the things that our community needs, it takes work to be involved in the community. And I think that's why we see so few people, actually involved in community outreach, community activities, and community involvement. That's why you don't see a full community always out helping each other, because it takes a certain amount of strength and can I say character? Could we use the word character? Because I don't want to undermine people's character because they don't work in a community. That's not what I'm saying. But there does take a certain amount of emotional, mental, and physical effort to say, I'm going to go help another. Not to say that we individually don't need help, but today, right now, I'm going to do X amount of time, X amount of hours, and I'm going to go out and help someone else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sometimes we may feel that, hey, we don't have ourselves together. So how can I, help somebody else if I can't help myself? But also on the flip side, I've seen the opposite. I've seen sometimes individuals go so out their way to help others that they don't take care of themselves, So, yeah, I can see both sides, but yeah, you make a valid point.
Can we help someone recognize that you don't want to overdo, like you said, and burn out yourself, but to not do is also just as harmful? Mm-hmm. To try to really develop community activity is where really the Black community is lacking. The African American community, the minority, it's just flat lacking in a large sense. I'm not talking about the few. People can be very offensive, how much I do? I'm not talking about you. But there's only one of you. I'm talking about the 10 of you that isn't doing. There's probably 10 that isn't compared to the one that is.
Yeah, it's important also to be aware of that we feel better when we help others. It's scientifically proven that when we're able to maybe display gratitude towards someone else or make somebody else feel better, then we have mirror neurons and we also experience that same pleasure and that satisfaction, right? When we witness someone else experiencing that pleasure and satisfaction. So sometimes we may not be aware of that, or we may not know the first step that we need to take so we can be involved in our community. We may not, there's some individuals that may not see that benefit and see the bigger picture as well. I've heard multiple times let's say, for instance, someone is passionate about, stopping police brutality, and they may feel like, oh, well, my one action is not going to stop this entire societal, issue and, racial disparities that we see, right? But that one change can motivate others to change and start a movement and really make a significant impact.
It's mostly people, as Dr. Warner was talking about, as Ryan was talking about an individual making an impact. And for those of you who are listening on the podcast and listen to iHeart and Apple Podcasts and wherever you get all your podcast stations at and listening to Bridges Live Mental Health Mondays, behind me on our visual is two men of many men, who said, what I can do can have an impact. And one is Malcolm and the other woman is Martin. I don't want to assume Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. Maybe some people like Martin who, Martin the Martian. I don't know, so I don't want people to think that just because I'm talking about people that impact lives, they just automatically know which Martin I'm talking about and which Malcolm I'm talking about. They could be talking about Malcolm in the middle. I don't know, it's so. But also with these individuals, they did think about other people. Their process was about others. And I really don't want to hear the discussion or the disagreement like, well, everyone's not like Malcolm and everyone's not like Martin. That's just that's a tired statement because we can do something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it could be simply helping out a friend, just like you did. You saw someone who was experiencing some distress and you went in and supported them, mm-hmm. right? If we can all make one goal of helping someone else every day, that could be opening the door for someone who's struggling holding their groceries, right? Or just calling a friend and say, hey, I appreciate you. I appreciate all you do, for me and being there for me, right? Displaying that gratitude, is a form of mindfulness. It's a form, of just appreciation. And that can go a long way with not just helping improve their day, but also improving your mood too.
You mentioned about mirror neurons, and if people missed that just a little bit, let me explain what that mirror neurons do. Basically, your body, not basically, what your mind does, it has a reaction to the external visual cortex of what your body is picking up externally. So and it also happens also with verbiage and speech. So when you say bad or good things, using those words, your body internally does not understand the difference between you speaking outwardly and your body reacting internally. So negative words affect your internal self. It comes down to the neurons and to biochemistry, just as it'll affect the person you are also speaking to or at. So if you're thinking that, well, I'm talking to him, her, them, or they, and I'm speaking nasty to them, or whatever your speech is to them, it has no effect on you, that is just not true. Your body also goes through the same chemical reaction if someone was actually speaking to you directly. Thanks, Ryan, for mentioning that earlier.
Yes.
I actually think that when people understand the difference between how the neural body and chemistry works, I think they would help change their actions a little bit differently. And I think what are some of those steps that we can give them to help change their speech? I always say slow down. Slow your thoughts, slow your speech.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also we talked about mindfulness, right? Mm-hmm. Trying to appreciate what's going on in front of you. oftentimes we're always thinking about the future or we're thinking about the past. And we, in turn, may not be as aware of the verbiage that we're engaging in or the behaviors, that we have. And for us to just slow down, take that deep breath, bring us back to the present moment, that helps ground us and ultimately can improve our mood and helping us get through challenging situations as well, instead of just reacting impulsively.
As a new dad, there's some things that you are coming across that you never thought you would come across emotionally. And how are you coming over those hills and valleys of being a dad and a newborn baby? I mean, that's a lot of newness that a lot of people they still struggle with, especially men struggle with being. What they ask those questions: what am I? Who am I? Every time I pick up my child, it spits up on me. It screams. I don't think it likes me. All those new questions. I don't know if you've had, but I know other dads have had it.
So the main thing I've learned thus far with being a new father is patience. If you would have asked anyone about my characteristics before I had a child, they would say, "Oh, Ryan's the most impatient person." I know he wants instant gratification. He wants things right away. But I realized with a child, you have to be patient. And that's helped me grow as a person, as a father, as a man, as a husband, and ultimately, there's nothing better in the world, being a father. It's the most challenging job. However, I love it, right? And it motivates me to be better and to do everything, for my son. And also want to teach him at a young age about emotional intelligence, right? And being in tune with his emotions so we can reduce or mitigate toxic masculinity, right? And
what do you mean by toxic masculinity? I know I totally it hits me right in my gut, but explain that to people who really don't get that.
Yeah, so oftentimes based on the media that we consume or childhood experiences or what we learn, from others, we may feel based on society's norms, quote unquote,
right,
that, a man has to react in a certain way and has certain responsibilities and has to display, certain qualities or characteristics. So for instance, men can't cry. I've heard that multiple times growing up. Right. Or toughen up, be a man. Right. Ultimately, what does that mean? Right. I don't know. People may interpret that differently.
I really don't know what that means, actually. I really don't. I don't even want to speculate, because to me, if I say it sounds like you are the overseer in a plantation. No. I just want my son to be tough. Well, what do you mean? Well, I don't want things to be, rub him and he could be. They now most of the time they go straight to the name calling. Well, I don't want them to be a punk. Well, that's curious. You're using a lot of hostile words. What word? Now it sounds like prison words. You know what I mean? Like, where are you getting this? That this is optimum for a child's growth and environment. Well, and then they'll get to the neighborhood I grew up in. Ah, I see. So this has nothing to do with your child. This has something to do with what you experience in your life. And that gets put off to the child.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and often as parents, we look at our experiences and maybe sometimes project that onto our children and to other individuals we interact with, right? People in our life. But I think, it's important for us to try to reduce that toxic masculinity. And it's okay for men to cry. It's okay for men to show emotions. Mm-hmm. It's okay for men to express their feelings, to others. It's okay to have emotions that are not just centered around anger, right? Because oftentimes when we think of anger, that can be an emotion which we may feel a little bit more comfortable, conveying, right? And displaying. Yeah. However, it's a little bit more challenging for us to say, hey, today I feel really sad, or I feel really dissatisfied, or, using other terms like that, right?
Because, when men are unable to express themselves, they silence their partner into having compassion and caring for them. So men actually works in reverse when men or people. It doesn't always have to be men. We're not picking on men. So I don't want to hear all the screams and yells and inbox me talking about, you sounds like you're always picking on men. I don't want to hear all that relate on it. That's not the case, because men feel very threatened very quickly, and they're really to throw numbers at me and say, Dr. P, I can't believe you're always. I said, listen to me. I am referencing a group of individuals, whether it be him or hers. But when you silence yourself in expression, you kill the compassion of your partner. I'll say that again. When you silence yourself in expression, you kill the compassion of your partner. Because how can I care for you if I have not heard you?
Yeah, it's deep. I have to sit back and reflect on that. I like that.
Because I want people to know that we're on Mental Health Mondays. We're here at 7 p.m. every Monday, Mental Health Mondays. We have Dr. Ryan on when he can. He's been traveling and speaking. And then, of course, it was just always me. But it's always about, let's talk about it, let's express, and let's get to some ideas. Because when it comes to mental health, there's not solutions. I think people got to be careful about solutions. I think people look for, like, I did this, and I should be better now. Whoa. Saddle up, cowboy, and slow down. Just because you can ride a horse doesn't mean you can, now you can herd sheep. Be careful, you know what I mean? So I think people need to slow down and understand that these aren't solution-based actions. And I know as humans, we have to get out a lot of the solution-based thinking. I think that has hurt us.
Yeah, and like I mentioned in the past, like sometimes we want that instant gratification. Mm-hmm. We want to be able to do something, and then that problem or that issue should be automatically fixed. However, that's not how mental health works, right? There may be different avenues, different things we have to try out, right? Different ideas we have to try to implement, so that we can improve, well-being. And I think that sometimes discourages some individuals, They may go to mental health and they may say, oh, I've been here for 2 months, things aren't getting better, and just drop out, right, or terminate. So that can be a challenge as well.
If mental health was a birdhouse, then I would agree with you. But this is bigger than a birdhouse. This is bigger than just a regular house. This is your emotional house. And your emotional house is your forever home. If we could just move out of the home that you're in now going, I just want to move to a better home with better fixtures, that's not your emotional house. Your emotional house, whatever fixture you put up in that emotional house, good, bad, or whatever, how you want to look at it, for you to get another fixture in there, you really got to tear it down. You got to remove those type of fixtures. And whatever fixture that the environment forced you to put up in your house, say if you grew up in a bad neighborhood and you don't want your son to be a punk, you put up all these locks, gates, doors, alarms. That's not a house I want to live the rest of my life in. That's a trauma-filled home. That's a lot of fear. So you say, well, I'm going to move to a different neighborhood. Well, your emotional house, you just can't pick up and move, right? So you got to remove all those locks, all those bricks, all those doors, all those things that keeps you away from civilization, away from connecting with people, and away from compassion. Because those locks aren't for exterior. Those locks are for your interior. And that's your emotional house.
And then multiply all of those experiences by how old you are.
Right.
30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years old, right? That's a lot of quote-unquote stuff inside, right? That's a lot of experiences, a lot of trauma, suppression of emotions, etc., right? So it takes time to unravel some of that and process that and approach these challenges instead of avoiding and throwing them back in the closet.
So I want people to look at, when we talk about your emotions, I want you to literally visualize, like Dr. Ryan says, your emotional house and how big it is or how small it is or the rooms and all those things, that stuff are being stored and tucked away through memories, through processes, and through escapes, right? Because every time you escape something, it doesn't leave the house. Matter of fact, let's look at it this way, because since we're going into the, quote, Halloween theme, that you leave something in a house long enough, it's going to turn into a ghost. And that ghost is going to haunt you. So, and then we start talking about the bones in your closet. These are the things we're talking about. All these metaphor is really to help you understand there's cleaning to be done, and only you can do it. You know, when you talk to a health professional like Ryan or myself, we'll help you to go inside your own personal house and start checking rooms. Right?
That's scary.
Yes. Start looking around. What was that? What was that noise?
Yeah. Nobody wants to open a closet door that they haven't been in years, and with so much, trauma, past experiences, right? Nobody wants to open that door, and it can be easier for us to keep walking past that door each and every day and avoiding that. And ultimately, but in mental health, we do the opposite. We approach and we slowly open that door so that we can be able to process some of those experiences. And it takes time, and it's challenging. It's hard work. It can be kind of scary, but it's definitely worth it.
Anything you want to take off? This is Mental Health Mondays, every Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can come in. If you have any questions throughout the week you want us to talk about, any ideas you want us to discuss, please inbox me of all the direct in the inbox you can, through email, through all the channels that I have that you may see the show on, and just ask those questions, because we would like to help you help yourself. Again, this is about you helping you learn how to clean your house, open up those different windows and walls, and lock closets. Anything you want to say, Ryan, before we take off?
I just want to say that engaging in mental wellness is a journey, and it takes time, and it is scary, right? But taking that first step to raise your hand and say, hey, I need some support, I need some help, or I need to start to reflect on some of these challenges. And if I can't do it by myself, I need to reach out to others I trust, others I care about, and maybe seek that professional support as well, so that we can be able to live in an emotional house that is more comfortable, is more satisfying for our overall mental well-being.
Because this is not beating the horse, but if you're not welcoming emotionally, then you're not connecting with others emotionally. And that's not a home, right? That's not a place where you want to be welcoming and caring and passionate and kind and loving. But if you have those doubts on anything, if you have that trust on anything and everything, if you have that lack of, then that is something you can work through, and that's understandable. If you don't express it, then it becomes a hindrance to you. So we'll talk more about that next Monday. Ryan, say hello to your wife and your new child and everything, and you be kind, be safe, compassionate, and all those people out there, please do the same. Be loving, be kind, and be compassionate. That takes work, takes time. Please take the time for your mental health. We need you to be mentally healthy so you can be physically healthy, so you can be spiritually healthy. Because until you have all that, then we lose you in this battle of having humanity move forward. And that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, if you need any additional support or resources, feel free to contact me at rcwarnerconsulting@gmail.com. You can also visit my website at www.rcwarnerconsulting.com.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a blessed evening, and be kind, be safe, be compassionate. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Feel about it.